It finally happened. Salute to Major League Baseball for doing the right thing. 2020, they um, kind of said that the Negro Leagues are going to be celebrated and kind of a part of history, but now they want to step further and integrated all of the Negro League stats into Major League history. So now, certain milestones or certain records are changed. Like Josh Gibson is now the all-time career batting average leader. He's the all-time slugging leader, all-time OPS leader, total bases or something like that. But, and it's just a great way to be able to expand the reach of the game, expand the people who have interest in the game or don't have interest in the game. Now you can be able to kind of sell this to inner city kids and say, hey, look, there are guys that look just like you that can be able to succeed in the major leagues, right? So that can probably spark some interest to get back into the game, especially in the inner city. So I love it. I love the fact that Rob Manfred, who is a complete moron, did something right for a change. This was the only move to make. Now, obviously, you're always going to have pushback. And the pushback that I've heard is, hey, well, Josh Gibson didn't play 3,000 games like Ty Cobb. So why should his numbers be higher than Ty Cobb's numbers? I'm just like, what do you fucking care? Doesn't matter. Don't you realize that during the dead ball era and before Jackie Robinson actually became the first black player to be accepted and integrated into baseball, that blacks weren't allowed to play? Simple. These guys were good enough to play in the major leagues and were banned. They weren't allowed to. So I don't care what Ty Cobb's numbers were. They probably would have been different had Josh Gibson played at the time. So now they had the Negro Leagues, and the Negro Leagues weren't not funded properly. So they weren't consistent. The box scores are not consistent. The stats are not consistent. They're like 75% complete. You got to understand the times is that they made do with what they had. And because of racism, because of fear, they weren't allowed to play with the great players of this time. So I don't care what your opinion is about numbers, because the bigger story is the fact that these guys were not allowed to play because of the skin color. That's the biggest thing. So instead of you having an issue with certain stats being altered, maybe there's 10 hits here, 20 hits here, somebody has another 40 wins. Who cares? Understand that this was something that should have never happened. So I hear people talk about, oh, well, we sometimes look at these black players or the Negro Leagues as like these mythical creatures, these mythical like beings. Like Josh Gibson was always looked at as like this mythical being. Okay, so is Babe Ruth. Let's be honest. They want to say Babe Ruth is the greatest baseball player in the world. Okay, cool. Played against his own competition. Never played against guys like Satchel Paige. Never played against guys that actually were great players that were the other skin tone. So how do you know how great Babe Ruth was? Really? It can work the other way. So my thing is, instead of trying to make these nuanced conversations, let's keep it honest. And it doesn't matter if the stats are changed. It doesn't matter if this is changed. The fact that it's now incorporated together is the importance. Don't put an asterisk next to it. Don't put this, because there's a lot of things that you can put on. If you want to put asterisks next to the Negro League stats, how about putting an asterisk next to the dead ball era? Because there were no blacks that played in that era. So shouldn't that have an asterisk, right? Doesn't make sense. If you're not going to put asterisks on anything, this doesn't deserve it either. So shouts to baseball for getting it right. Sometimes baseball is on its high horse and they're a little slow to advancing the game and advancing the reach and the outreach of the sport. This is going to be able to do a lot of great things because people who never knew who Josh Gibson was, they definitely went to his baseball reference page and to see exactly how great he was. Yes.
I think it's horrible that it took so long.
Yeah. 100%.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, but
I hope they don't put they can't put NL because that would be like National League. That's confusing. So how are they gonna spell it out?
Well, I think they'll just put the player's name and they'll put whatever team they play for.
Okay.
Without maybe no abbreviations, maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't really.
Because they'll find a way to rub it in.
I mean, listen, people are always going to be on the other side of things. Well, I don't really like it because, and don't really have an explanation. So the fact that you don't have an explanation, we know why you don't like it. We know why. You don't have to hide it. So face it, like it, love it. If you don't like it, tough shit.